Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that featured on the channel once before. So the last beer that I reviewed from these guys was maybe about 2 years ago. It was one of my favourite styles, a coffee stout, and it was beautifully done from what I remember. Now, from what I gather, in more recent times, this brewery has been experimenting with quite a few different styles and they have been getting some really positive press for it. So I thought it was about time we did another review from them. So this one that we're going to have a look at today just caught my interest. It is very Swedish and I have to say I'm very curious to see how it turns out. So hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Stockholm once again, the Swedish capital, and we're going to have a look at my second beer from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri. So this particular beer is called Hjortron. It comes in at 5% ABV, and if you're a Swedish speaker, you might happen to know that Hjortron is the Swedish for cloudberries. So this one is actually an oak barrel-aged cloudberry sour, 150 grams per litre of cloudberries in this one, so it should be really quite interesting. This one also contains wheat from Åland, so that should be quite interesting as well. I always find when you're an English speaker and you learn Swedish, the name Åland, the island, the smaller of the two off the east coast of Sweden, the kind of long, thin one. I always find that funny because it's like island land. So yeah, but there we go. We've got some Åland wheat in this, which is quite famous actually. It's well known for its quality. And we've got some Swedish cloudberries as well. So this should be nice. Cloudberries, of course, are those really kind of like almost peachy coloured berries, like very small, very kind of spherical, and they are tart as fuck, basically, to put it bluntly. So yeah, this should make for a really interesting one actually. But yeah, really cool to return to Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri. Let's crack on and see what we have with this one then. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri, and we will definitely be adding more to that list in the near future. I do have one more beer from them to take a look at, and there is another one I've got my eye on too. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is hugely appreciated, and you can of course check out the playlist of beer from different countries. The whole channel has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for all those kind of things. But let's crack on then and have a little talk about Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri. So my brewery history notes. So Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Stockholm, the Swedish capital, and the company was originally founded back in 2011, and it was run for the most part by Niels and Alan Mortan, who you know, they were homebrewers from what I understand. There were various other owners who came in and out of the company as well, but this brewery only produced a pale ale on a very, very small scale. But if we fast forward a few years to 2017, there was a change in ownership and the brewery was taken over by Mats Tjernstig along with his sons Simon and Joel. But when they took over the brewery, it was still very small and brewing 50-litre batches, but Simon and Joel had been homebrewing since about 2012 just as a hobby, but the opportunity came to take over the brewery for a very good price, and so they decided to go for it. But the brewery itself is just 45 square metres, and at the moment they're producing around 100 hectolitres of beer per year, so that's about 100,000 litres, if I remember correctly. No, that's 10,000 litres, my apologies. But they've got about 50 hectolitres worth of barrel aging capacity as well, which is why they've been experimenting with some sours. And in more recent times, they've been developing a few different recipes for IPAs as well. I saw that they have a barley wine on Untappd, which is quite highly rated, so I will need to go and get a can of that and take a look at it as well. But yeah, as of October 2022, when I'm reviewing this particular beer for you, these guys have produced 95 different kinds of beer, and like I said to you, they have IPAs at the moment, they've got a barley wine, they've got a few different sour beers in there, and the coffee stout that I had from them a few years back was very nice too, so I sincerely hope that they bring some of the darker beers back as well. But we will make sure we get a look at that barley wine in a few videos time, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. I'll put the link to that in the video description below. It's probably better to follow them on social media. I think they are a little bit more active on there. But like I said, these guys have been really quite hyped a little bit over the last little while. They've been doing some really, really nice stuff. So yeah, check out all those links. Go onto the Untappd page, pardon me, and you can learn a little bit more about the different beers that they've done. So yeah, this should be pretty cool. I'll just let you have a little look at the label on this one before we open it up. There you can see Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri, plain black bottle cap on this. And yeah, it actually reminds me a little bit of the Kernel with this kind of label, the kind of Kernel beers that you get in London. But as I say, this should be quite nice. It's a 330ml bottle. As we said, 150 grams per litre of cloudberries, and then it is oak barrel aged. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. 5% ABV. Very curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. So, yeah. Oh, that looks good. That does look very nice. And yeah, just a little bit of sediment left at the bottom of the bottle there. So, before the head disappears on this one, you can see that it's poured. You can see that it's poured with a lovely, I would say about a quarter finger of a frothy, perfect white head. That has faded away very quickly to be just a thin foamy layer, but there is a nice kind of thicker ring just around the edge of the glass. But you can see the colour of this one is absolutely lovely. It's a lovely kind of pale, I'd say it's actually quite a kind of pale bright yellow, to be honest with you. The colour of this one's not a million miles away from some of the kind of more American IPAs that you would see these days. It's kind of got a little bit of the haziness of some of the lighter, it's not quite got the full haziness of a New England, if you like, and it's not as clear as you'll get a West Coast. It's actually really along that kind of colour. But yeah, it has got a little bit of an amber tint to it in the middle, but this is mainly a kind of light yellow. I'm not sure how well you guys are going to see the colour of this one, but if we shine the light through it, it's definitely really quite pale. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect that as well. And when it comes to these kind of more old school sour beers, the fruits and stuff that you put in can affect it, and the barrel will maybe play a role too, depending on what you have actually put, what barrel you've put it in. I think wine barrels and things like that tend to have a bit more of an effect. But yeah, you can see this beer, it's got a nice little bit of a kind of cloudy character to it. It's obviously unfiltered, and then the wheat is going to add some of the haziness to that as well. But in terms of what you would expect from a kind of cloudberry sour, this really isn't out of the question. I've only had one or two cloudberry or Hjortron sours before, and they've always been kind of around this sort of bright yellow, or kind of, they've had a little bit more kind of peachy colour, some of them as well actually. But yeah, this is around the colour you would expect. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. But other than that, I don't think we need to say much else about the appearance of this one. You can see there's a nice little bit of opacity to this one too. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this beer and just see how we get on. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is very, very nice and very old school. So yeah, this is one of these kind of proper funky old school, like Belgian type sours. Yeah, you get the big kind of funky woody character out of it. You can smell the tartness of the cloudberries on top of that, and you have got a wee bit of a kind of hoppy character to it as well. It doesn't actually say that it contains hops, but I guess it probably will contain a little bit. But yeah, aroma wise, this is really very, very nice. Yeah, I like this. So the backbone of the beer, you can absolutely smell that nice big smooth oak, and going from how smooth it is, I'm guessing that it's probably going to be, it doesn't quite have the dryness. We'll maybe get something different in the flavour, of course, but I think it might be an American oak that this is. I've always found that American oak is just that little bit smoother than yeah, I've always found that American oak is just a little bit smoother than European oak. European oak has a bit more dryness to it, and there's just something about the smoothness of the backbone of this beer that is telling me it's American oak barrels. Maybe it's a white wine barrel. That would probably work quite well with the cloudberries actually, and just some of the kind of vinous notes that you're getting out of this beer make me think, yeah, it's a white wine barrel. Um, so yeah, that's quite interesting. Unless they've bought a completely fresh barrel for this, and that would be quite interesting if they've bought a barrel and they're going to do this every year. Cloudberries at the moment are of course quite expensive because of the pandemic. Of course, the Thai people that were coming to pick the berries haven't come to Sweden, so yeah, they have become very very expensive because of the shortage. But that's another story. But yeah, lovely smooth American oaky backbone to it. You do get little hints of vanilla in there as well, of course, from the wood itself. And on top of that, it's just a very kind of smooth. You can smell the wheat just giving you that nice kind of smooth white bread as well. Actually, there are little hints of kind of farmhousey notes. Maybe a little bit. There is maybe a little touch of that Jacob's cream cracker too, but that takes a real back seat to the big smoothness of the American wood and the kind of white bready characters as well. Yeah, aroma wise, this one is this is very very nice. As I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, there is a little tiny touch of a slightly biscuity sweetness to it, I think, but the wood and the white bread, the crackery notes, and it has got this kind of just funky note to it, just like a little bit of an almost kind of grainy funkiness, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, those, the grainy funkiness is really apparent in this one, particularly at the back of the nose, so that tells you a lot of it is coming from the yeast. I'd be curious to know what yeast strain they would have used in this one. Strikes me as being a little bit more kind of like a mixed fermentation or a wild fermentation. So yeah, we can say this is maybe more of a wild ale, I would say. Mix of lactobacillus and Brettanomyces. I really don't know. Maybe they've got a house yeast that they've bred themselves or cultured themselves. But yeah, the malty backbone of this is really nice. You've got the lovely smooth wood with a little bit of oaky character, the smooth white bread, a little bit of a crackery note to it, wee touch of biscuit. Yeah, I think this goes together really, really nicely. So yeah, thumbs up to definitely a big thumbs up to Mariatorgets for this one. Yeah, on the kind of hoppy and fruity side of things, let's just focus on that for a wee bit. So, as I've said to you in other reviews, when it comes to kind of more funky sour beers like this, what the Belgians always tended to do was put older hops in them. So, because when you put hops in these beers, you don't want to take away too much from the sourness of the beer. Now, I think just going from this one, I can smell a wee bit of earthiness, I can smell a little bit of a floral character and a bit of grassiness, but yeah, that does take a little bit. It does take a little bit of a back seat. Yeah, the way that everything goes together in this one is really nice. So yeah, a little bit of smooth earthiness. As I say, you've got a little bit of that floral character there and a wee bit of grassiness. You probably could age this beer a little bit more if you wanted to. I don't think it says best before 2025, so yeah, you could age this a little bit more. We were drinking it probably fairly fresh. I'm not sure exactly when this one was released, but yeah, we are drinking it fairly fresh. Of course, breathing some air down the wrong way there. But yeah, behind that you get the cloudberries, and it's really difficult to describe cloudberries because they are just so distinctive. But you've got a little bit of that kind of white wine vinous character in the front of the nose. You can smell just the sheer tartness of the berries, but then you get that kind of nice juiciness from it. I can't really think what to compare cloudberries to for those of you that are watching, out in Asia and the Americas and things like this, because cloudberries really are not very common other than in Scandinavia and the Nordic countries. But yeah, the aroma that you get from this is just lovely. The cloudberries are nice and juicy, but also quite tart. And as I say, you've got a little bit of that kind of white wine vinous quality to this beer too. Yeah, lovely, lovely smelling beer. I always find sour beers a little bit harder to describe because they show a bit more complexity, and it's all about the aftertaste for me with sour beers. I think that a good sour beer for me is one that comes in and just mellows out really smoothly and really nicely. So yeah, I'm curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. As I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma before you get stuck in, but we are going to taste this one now. So yeah, this one is the Hjortron, 5% oak barrel aged Cloudberry sour from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri up in Stockholm. Took me a while just to formulate that there, but slanja, skål, and cheers. Oh yeah, that is pretty damn nice, I have to say. Yeah, I will say as well at the same time, one thing with this beer, it has a hell of an impact to it. It's a kick in the balls for sure when you take it in, but it does mellow out very, very nicely. Yeah, that is really, really nice. As I say, a big thumbs up to me, not to me, from me for this beer. Yeah, if this is the kind of sour beers that Mariatorgets have been putting out there, then I can really see why they've been getting such positive press. Yeah, beautifully done. If you get the chance to try this, you will enjoy it. Just be aware that cloudberries are, in my experience, extremely tart compared to other ones. So just be aware, you are going to get a tartness for this, but this is properly Swedish. I really like this. But yeah, let's just break it down and describe it as we always do. So what you'll get is when you first take this beer, and you get that just sharp punch, the tartness from the cloudberries, but then they just mellow out and you start to get the more kind of vinous notes, and then you start to get the wood and the vanilla and the kind of white bready notes beyond that. It's a beautifully done beer, this really is. So middle third of your palate then, what you'll notice there is the backbone of the beer. It's got that lovely smooth American oaky character to it. Toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you can feel that there's that sort of vanilla quality. You feel that there's a little touch of that vanilla quality just kind of embedded in the wood. Yeah, you can definitely feel that nice. Yeah, you definitely get that lovely kind of smooth. It's more, I'm pretty sure this is American oak. But you get that lovely smoothness from what I suspect is American oak, and then you've just got that lovely vanilla note just embedded into it. On top of that, you feel the nice kind of smooth. You can feel the nice smooth white bready notes from the Åland wheat. Obviously, the barley malt is going to contribute a little bit to that as well. But yeah, there's a wee bit of a you do get a little touch of a kind of Jacob's cream crackery note to this one as well, which I think is great. Yeah, the Jacob's cream crackery note I would add is really quite minimal, but definitely I think it's noticeable. In the middle of your palate, in the dead centre, you will get a little touch of sweetness out of this one, and it's almost just like a little hint of a kind of butterscotchy sort of thing, like a Werther's Original butterscotch. Maybe there's a tight, as you move out from the centre of your palate, there's maybe a tiny little hint of a McVitie's digestive biscuit, but it's more a kind of smooth and oily type sweetness that you get from this one. But yeah, I think as you move further back on that middle third of your palate, you can feel that the bread just gets a little touch grainier. But I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate in this beer. The border region between front third and middle third of the palate with this one, then you can feel there's a little touch of a bready build up there, but the base of that back third of the palate is again the smooth wood, and you get a little bit more of a kind of dryness from the American oak there, which is nice, and you can feel that wheaty layer is just a little bit taller and it has a little bit more kind of dryness and graininess to it. You could actually be forgiven, I think, for saying there's a very slight, very slight coriander type flavour in the back third of your palate there, just because of the slightly more dry nature of the wheat that you're getting. But above that kind of wheaty layer, you can feel there is a really airy white bread. It's like a more farmhousey, kind of yeasty type note in there, and it's that, the kind of airiness of the yeast and the slightly more grainy character and dryness that you get from the wood. You know, you're getting all of this kind of in there, and it does give, that's what really gives you the kind of funkiness in this beer. It's very smooth in the middle of your palate, but then a bit more funky and farmhousey toward the back of your tongue. But it's beautifully done, this. As I say, I think this is very nice. Yeah, that is very good. Yeah, but definitely the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is just that little bit taller. Then as you move further forward, just condenses down a wee bit more. But yeah, beautifully done. Right, so let's focus on the hoppy and the kind of fruity and sour side of the beer. I think there are a little bit of hops. There are some hops in this beer. So in the back corners of the palate, you get a little touch of earthiness, but as you move further forward, there's a very slight kind of floral character in there as well. And as you push further forward, that floral character kind of remains, but around the front curve of the palate, you're getting a lighter, wetter grassiness. But what you are getting from this beer as well is the fact that the berries are kind of suppressing that. That's one of the big things. Whenever you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, it always suppresses a little bit of the kind of green component of the beer. So, for me, I think that it goes together very well. You've got a really nice balance between the hoppy side and the kind of sour, fruity part of the beer. But yeah, there's definitely that wee touch of earthiness, a herbal note, and then some floral character. But yeah, front third of the palate then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you've got a little bit of a more, as I say, you get a little bit of a more kind of bready build up in there again, but then you can feel the American oak is lovely and smooth under that, and then the wheaty white bread there again does the same. So remember, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back on the palate, the sweeter flavours come out further forward, but then on top of this all, you've got that nice sharp, you've got that nice sharp, you just got that nice little bit of sharp tartness from the thing. We talked about the impact that this beer has later on. So in the front tip of your tongue, you can feel as soon as you take this beer in, the cloudberries just come in, and then they just mellow out, and you can feel the sort of fruit, the cloudberries just travel up toward the back of that front third of your palate, and underneath you're getting all that white and green, that white wine kind of vinous character sitting in there too. But then it mellows out, and you are getting one or two little elements of, there's a wee tiny little bit of a dry apricot or a dry pear, maybe more of a dry pear to be honest with you, and there's maybe a little touch of like a fresh kind of green apple type flavour in there too. But you can definitely feel the kind of tartness of the cloudberries just pushing around the edge of your palate and suppressing a little bit of the green component. But as I say, this is a lovely sour beer, this one, beautifully done. We've got some really interesting breweries in Sweden that do these types of beers. Hjrotron's Handverksbryggeri, they do all the kind of more funky, kind of old school sours like this. Jackdaw in just outside of Uppsala, of course, they've got some very nice things. In Bryggeriet down here in Skåne, and this one is definitely on the level of any of the three breweries that I've mentioned before. This is very nice. It's up there with the best ones, I would say. Actually, it's a beautifully done sour beer, that. So what I would say to Mariatorgets is, do this every year. Do it for every harvest of the cloudberries that you can get, because that is really nicely done. Hopefully these guys will scale up a wee bit, and maybe they can do something like that, like have a yearly release for the kind of berry harvests and stuff like that. That would be very cool, because that, to me, I think this is maybe the first or second time that they've done a beer like this, but it comes across as very refined and just really well done. So yeah, it gets a massive, massive thumbs up for me. I can really see why these guys have got the positive press that they have. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour. Let's just round off with the mouthfeel. Yeah, mouthfeel wise, it's kind of in the middle of it is what you would expect for a more kind of funky, kind of farmhousey sour. Lovely smoothness to the beer. As I say, it feels quite wet and clean on the top, but it's got a lovely smoothness throughout it. There's a little touch of dryness to it as well the further you go into the aftertaste. Because of the cloudberries, it does have quite a considerable tart impact. You do need to think about that with this one. Cloudberries are tartar, more tart, you say, than most berries. But yeah, it really does go together well. The way the impact of this beer is good. So yeah, IBU wise, I think this is, I think it's about 10 IBUs or something like that. There is definitely a little bit of a hoppy presence in there. The tartness is quite high. The smoothness of the malt base and there is a little touch of sweetness in there too, which I really enjoy. And yeah, nice kind of fruity qualities. So yeah, I think this goes together really, really nicely. So yeah, a big thumbs up to Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri for this, and I look forward to trying the other one. The other beer that I have from these guys at the moment is a sour beer, but I'm definitely going to get a can of the barley wine and see if I can get one of the IPAs to have a look at as well. And if the other beers are as good as this one, I think we're going to be in for some nice reviews, needless to say. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this. This one was the Hjortron, a 5% Cloudberry sour beer from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri in Stockholm. Beautifully done. Highly, highly recommend this beer. This is one of the nicest ones I would say I've reviewed in the sour beer category for quite a wee while. This really is up there with what you'll get from some of the best sour breweries, I think. So very, very refined beer. Beautifully done. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Mariatorgets Mikrobryggeri as well. Like I said, we will return to them very, very soon. Do check out their social media and check out some of the beers if you get the chance. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and see you very soon.